Welcome back to Eye on Politics. The U.S. Senate is now considering the tax and spending cuts passed by the House in what President Trump has called his big, beautiful bill. But that's not how Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett describes it. She voted against the measure, as did every Democrat. Plus, the Congresswoman tells us about a new higher profile position she is running for on one of the major committees on Capitol Hill.
It's a disaster for the American people, and when I say American people, while you just introduced me as a Democratic representative, at the end of the day, when you look at my title, it's just U.S. representative, and this is a disaster for anyone who is not from the top 1%. They decided that they would throw a few crumbs in there to make people believe that they were doing something great for them as it relates to the tax side of this reconciliation bill, the kind of idea of no tax on tips and things like that. It's more so a game. The reality is that we are looking at approximately 14 million people that may lose their health care. And last time I checked, most people that are struggling with health care, whether they have it or don't, those bills are usually a little bit bigger than the average tax bill, that is for sure. Or those people that are relying on things such as SNAP benefits. The amount of people that are going to go hungry, unfortunately, we have a hunger issue in this country in the first place. And SNAP is literally short for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, right? It is supplemental. And the way that the federal government sees that is that $6 a day is enough to supplement you per person. And we know in reality that it's not. So the idea that you would go through and you would like gut critical things that literally people rely on to live, also that say maybe somebody can go and buy yet another jet or another yacht. It just doesn't seem right because it isn't right. This is literally a reverse Robin Hood of literally stealing from those that need resources the most and giving it to those that are rich.
So I've heard Republicans say that all the Democrats who voted against this voted to raise everybody's taxes. What do you say to that?
I say it's a lie and it's a game. Here's the deal. You had every Democrat lockstep recognizing that this was going to inflict harm, and so they voted against it. And we know that this was just about taking care of the billionaires. It's a billionaire tax scam. But you also had Republicans that didn't vote for it in the House.
I want to ask you about the Medicaid cuts because I've asked the Republican members of Congress a lot about this. And what they tell me is the growth of the program was just getting out of control. And they say that they wanted to rein it in because people should work, able-bodied people should be working, and they're just getting the benefits. And they want to focus more on pregnant women, low income, and disabled. So what do you say to that?
I say that they are really good at spinning it. The thing is, they are trying to use that to justify the tax cuts that they have built in for the ultra wealthy. But here's the problem, Jack. They still got to raise the debt ceiling.
President Trump himself on another network criticized you and called you a low IQ individual. What was your reaction to that? And what do you say to that?
He's such a loser. You know, and I say that and I'm laughing, but I really do believe that he's a loser. Because I truly, number one, can't imagine being the president of the United States, which arguably, historically, has been the most powerful country in the world. And I'm worried about a rising sophomore or a sophomore in Congress. Like, I can't really see me taking up that much airtime or space on that person. And listen, whenever people start to attack you based on things that are not of substance, that's when you know that you're really getting under their skin and that there is nothing to attack. And when he wants to take an IQ test and challenge me, I am down.
Congressman Connolly, who was the ranking member on House Oversight, a committee on which you sit on, as you know, obviously, he recently passed away. Yeah. And a lot of people are wondering if you are going to run for ranking member, or do you have your sights set on higher office here in Texas?
I am running for a ranker, for sure.
Oh, you are?
I am running. We are working on pulling it all together, but most likely either next week or before my colleagues get back, they will have what we call a Dear Colleague, which is a letter that they will all receive laying out why it is that I believe I am the best candidate for this moment for this particular position.
Republican Congressman Brandon Gill of Flower Mound voted for the bill, and he explains why. He says he's not too concerned that the Senate will make major changes to it.
Break this bill down into its component parts. And each one are things that most Republicans all agree with. This provides massive funding for border security, for instance. It increases the number of ICE agents by 10,000. That's a 50% increase in ICE's footprint. It provides funding for the border wall, for river barriers, for all sorts of border security measures. Provides enough funding for up to, and maybe more, 1 million deportations every single year. It provides funding for our military as well, which has been so beaten down after 4 years of the Biden administration. It repeals massive portions of the Green New Deal. I think we could go further, and perhaps we will whenever the Senate takes a look at it, but that's a huge win for Republicans. It also provides work requirements for Medicaid so that working age, able-bodied people should either be working or seeking work if they're going to receive Medicaid benefits. It also takes off up to 1.4 million illegal aliens off of our Medicaid rolls. These are huge wins. All put together, of course, take all of those wins, put those aside, a permanent extension of the 2017 tax cuts, the biggest tax cuts for working class families in American history. That is a huge conservative win. It's going to put more money back in the pockets of working class families. This is something that I think we'll see broad support for.
Now, the Democrats, as you know, they all voted against it. They have said that basically this is cutting people who are on Medicaid so that billionaires could get additional tax cuts. How do you respond to that?
Well, what I would say is that we are reforming Medicaid to make sure that it is sustainable and viable for the core Medicaid population. In other words, what we're doing is protecting Medicaid. We've got just shy of 5 million, about 4.8 million Americans who are working age and able-bodied, who are on Medicaid but are not working or seeking work. That's a problem. Most Americans agree with us that there should be work requirements to receive Medicaid or to receive food stamps. There are 1.4 million illegal aliens that are on Medicaid right now. We're taking them off. So what we're doing is shoring up this program so that it'll survive in the long term for the core population who needs it.
And the core population being pregnant women?
Pregnant women, the disabled, and the poor. Here's the difference between Democrats and Republicans as we're looking at the economy and how we measure success. Democrats measure success by the number of people that they can get on welfare rolls, on the public dole. Republicans measure success by the number of people that we can lift out of poverty, that we can lift off of the welfare rolls to make independent and self-sustaining, and that's what this bill helps do.
So now, as you know, the Senate has control of this bill. How concerned are you that the Senate will make a lot of changes to this on what was already very difficult for the House to get to pass?
Well, we have a narrow majority in the House, but they also have a narrow majority in the Senate. We only have 53 Republicans there, so they've got their work to do as well. Now, I think that every single Republican in the House and in the Senate agrees that this is a bill that we have got to get passed. Now, whenever you follow it on a day-by-day or hour-by-hour basis and you see how the sausage is made, it looks like a messy process. There's all kinds of negotiations. There's back and forths. We're working long hours. The Senate's going to do the same thing. But ultimately, they're going to come up with a product that can pass through the Senate. They're going to send it back to the House. I think that they're going to make positive changes to this bill.
Like what?
Maybe they're going to look at the SALT tax deduction, which rewards far-left blue states by allowing them to deduct their state and local income taxes from their federal taxes. That is basically a handout for New York and California, allowing those states to provide welfare for illegal aliens, to pay for abortions, and all kinds of things that the people of Texas 26 and conservatives across the country don't agree with. I think that's one thing they're going to touch. I think they may go deeper into work requirements for Medicaid. We took a pretty good chunk there. It was a very good effort. I think they're going to go further. You know, another thing that I think they may touch is rolling back more of the Green New Deal. We pulled back hundreds of billions of dollars of Green New Deal tax subsidies, which is really corporate welfare. I think that they're going to go further. Those are all things that Republicans should agree with, and I think we'll be able to get it passed.
Up next, former Congressman Beto O'Rourke is back, but will he run for office again? We asked him when Eye on Politics returns.